let's continue looking at history of Iran. In previous episode, we talked about Persians and their relationship to Medes. In this episode, we look at Cyrus the Great, the founder of Achaemenid Empire and one of the most influential and important kings of history. Don't forget to like and subscribe to make sure you don't lose next episodes.
The life of Cyrus the Great. The rise of Cyrus the Great. By the mid-6th century BCE, the Persians were still considered a lesser people under the shadow of the mighty Median Empire. But among them was a man destined to change the world, Cyrus II, later called Cyrus the Great. Cyrus was born around 600 BCE in the Persian heartland of Anshan. He came from the Achaemenid clan, a noble line of Persian chiefs. Ancient traditions even wrap his birth in legend. Some say his grandfather, the Median king Astyages, dreamt that his daughter's son would overthrow him. Fearing prophecy, Astyages allegedly ordered the infant killed. But fate intervened, the child survived, raised quietly until his destiny revealed itself. Whether or not this legend is true, one thing is certain: Cyrus grew up in a world where the Persians were subordinate, yet restless. By the 550s BCE, he rallied Persian tribes under his leadership, uniting them in defiance of Median rule. This was no small feat. The Medes were experienced warriors, with cavalry and fortified strongholds. But Cyrus brought something new: vision, charisma, and a reputation for fairness. When rebellion broke out, Astyages marched his Median army against his own grandson. But the tide turned quickly. According to ancient sources, many Median nobles defected to Cyrus, tired of Astyages' tyranny. By 550 BCE, the unthinkable happened: Cyrus entered Ecbatana, the Median capital. The empire of the Medes collapsed, and the Persians, once vassals, had become masters. This was the birth of the Achaemenid Empire. Yet Cyrus did not destroy the Median legacy. Instead, he absorbed it. He kept Median officials, integrated their army, and fused Persian and Median traditions into a single imperial system. From now on, Persians and Medes would rule side by side, as partners in empire. Cyrus was more than just a conqueror. He was a statesman who understood that an empire could not survive by force alone. Unlike the Assyrians, who had ruled through fear and brutality, Cyrus built his power on respect, tolerance, and alliances. This would become the defining character of the Achaemenid dynasty. And this was only the beginning. With Media under his control, Cyrus looked outward to the fabulously wealthy kingdom of Lydia in Anatolia, to the ancient cities of Babylonia, and eventually eastward toward Central Asia. The world was about to witness a conqueror unlike any it had ever seen. Cyrus' rebellion against the Medes. In the middle of the 6th century BCE, the Iranian plateau was ruled by the Medes, a powerful people whose king, Astyages, held sway from his capital at Ecbatana. Among their subjects were the Persians, a smaller tribe from the rugged land of Anshan in the south. The Persians were hardy mountain folk, organized in clans, skilled in war, and proud of their traditions. But for generations, they had lived as vassals, sending tribute and warriors to their Median overlords. Out of this humble background came a man who would change the destiny of his people: Cyrus, son of the Achaemenid clan. Ancient storytellers wrapped his birth in legend. They say that Astyages had a dream foretelling that his grandson would one day overthrow him. Fearing the prophecy, he ordered the infant killed. But the child survived, hidden away, until his true heritage was revealed. Whether fact or myth, the story reflects how people later saw Cyrus as a man chosen by fate to challenge the great king. By the 550s BCE, Cyrus had become leader of the Persians. He was young, ambitious, and bold. Where others had accepted the Persians' lowly status, he offered something radical: freedom. His call for independence sparked a movement, and soon the tribes of Persis rallied to his banner. Astyages, outraged, could not let rebellion go unanswered. He gathered the Median army, one of the strongest in the region, and marched against his grandson. On paper, the Persians had little chance. The Medes were seasoned warriors, with a powerful cavalry, while Cyrus commanded a smaller, less experienced force. But what Astyages did not see was that many of his own nobles had turned against him. Tired of his harsh rule, they secretly sided with Cyrus. One of his most trusted generals, Harpagus, even betrayed him on the battlefield. The decisive clash came in 550 BCE. Astyages' army crumbled as defections spread. The Medes, once masters of the plateau, were defeated by the very people they had ruled. Astyages himself was captured, and Cyrus marched into Ecbatana in triumph. What happened next set Cyrus apart from conquerors before him. He did not destroy the Medes or strip them of power. Instead, he embraced them. Median nobles kept their positions, their warriors joined his armies, and their traditions were woven together with those of the Persians. In this way, Cyrus transformed victory into unity. The Persians and Medes, once ruler and subject, became partners in a new kind of empire. Thus, with the fall of the Medes, the Achaemenid Empire was born. It was the first step in a career that would see Cyrus challenge the great kingdoms of Lydia and Babylonia, and build the foundations of one of history's greatest empires. Cyrus and the conquest of Lydia. After defeating the Medes, Cyrus was no longer a minor tribal leader. He was now the master of a vast new kingdom, uniting Persians and Medes under one crown. But his ambitions reached further, and beyond the Iranian plateau lay one of the richest kingdoms of the ancient world, Lydia. Lydia, in western Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, was ruled by the famous King Croesus, a man whose wealth was so legendary that his very name became a byword for riches. Gold flowed from the sands of the Pactolus River, and the kingdom's capital, Sardis, dazzled with splendor. Croesus commanded powerful armies and, through alliances, had secured ties with Egypt, Babylon, and even the rising city-states of Greece. To Croesus, Cyrus' sudden rise was alarming. A new empire had appeared on Lydia's eastern frontier, and he feared the Persians would upset the balance of power. But Croesus was no cautious man. According to the Greek historian Herodotus, he consulted the oracle of Delphi before making his move. The oracle gave a cryptic reply: if Croesus crosses the Halys River, he will destroy a great empire. Convinced this meant victory, Croesus prepared for war. In 547 BC, he marched east and clashed with Cyrus' army on the plains of Cappadocia, near the Halys River. The battle was fierce, but inconclusive. Croesus, believing the campaign season over, withdrew his forces to Sardis for the winter, expecting to rebuild his strength and call on his allies. But Cyrus thought differently. He pursued Croesus with astonishing speed, refusing to wait for spring. By the time Croesus realized what had happened, the Persians were at his gates. The decisive battle came outside Sardis. The Lydian cavalry, feared across Anatolia, charged against Cyrus' forces. But Cyrus had prepared a clever trick. He placed camels at the front of his army, knowing their smell would terrify the Lydian horses. The charge faltered, chaos spread through the ranks, and the Persians surged forward. Croesus was defeated. Sardis fell after only a brief siege, and the richest king in the world was at Cyrus' mercy. Ancient stories say that Croesus was placed on a pyre to be burned, only to be spared at the last moment when he cried out to the gods, a sign of Cyrus' famed clemency. Whether true or not, what mattered was this: Lydia was now part of the Achaemenid realm. Cyrus had conquered not only a kingdom, but also a bridge to the Western world. With Lydia came control of the Greek cities of Ionia along the Aegean coast. For the first time, Persians and Greeks would clash, a relationship that would echo through centuries of history. By defeating Croesus, Cyrus had proven that his empire was not a fragile accident, but a power that could humble the richest and most confident kings of the age. And yet, his greatest triumph still lay ahead, in the heart of Mesopotamia, against the ancient empire of Babylon. Cyrus and the conquest of Babylon. By the mid-6th century BCE, Cyrus the Great had already overturned the order of the Near East. He had defeated the Medes, humbled the Lydians, and extended Persian power from the mountains of Iran to the Aegean Sea. But one challenge remained: the greatest and most ancient empire of them all, Babylon. For over 1,000 years, Babylon had stood as a jewel of Mesopotamia, with mighty walls, towering temples, and a proud legacy that stretched back to Hammurabi. By Cyrus' time, it was ruled by Nabonidus, a king whose reign had stirred unrest among his own people. Nabonidus was deeply religious, but in ways that alienated the powerful priests of Babylon. He favored the moon god Sin over Marduk, the city's chief deity, and spent long years away from the capital on campaigns in Arabia. For many Babylonians, their king seemed distant and indifferent to their traditions. Cyrus recognized an opportunity. Unlike other conquerors, he did not present himself as a destroyer, but as a liberator. His propaganda was clear: he was chosen by Marduk himself to restore proper worship and free the people from Nabonidus' misrule. This was a brilliant stroke. The Persians had found a way to turn Babylon's own traditions into a weapon. In 539 BCE, Cyrus' army advanced toward Babylon. At Opis, on the Tigris River, the Persians clashed with the Babylonian forces and crushed them. With the road open, they marched south. Babylon was considered impregnable, its walls said to be impossible to breach. Yet within weeks, it too fell. Ancient accounts differ on how this happened. Herodotus and Xenophon tell dramatic stories of the Persians diverting the Euphrates River, slipping into the city through its waterways during a festival night. Whether or not this tale is true, the reality was the same: Babylon opened its gates, and Cyrus entered the city as its new master. But what set Cyrus apart was what came next. Instead of plundering the city, he declared himself the protector of Babylon's people and gods. His famous proclamation, inscribed on the Cyrus cylinder, announced that he had been chosen by Marduk to bring peace, restore temples, and allow displaced peoples to return to their homelands. Among them were the Jews, exiled in Babylon, whom Cyrus permitted to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. To his new subjects, Cyrus was not a conqueror but a restorer. His conquest of Babylon marked a turning point in ancient history. The world had seen empires of fear, like the Assyrians, but now it saw an empire built on tolerance and respect for traditions. By seizing Babylon, Cyrus added Mesopotamia to his growing realm and became the undisputed ruler of the Near East. His empire now stretched from the Aegean to the Persian Gulf, from the highlands of Iran to the fertile plains of Mesopotamia. It was the largest empire the world had ever seen, and it was still growing. Cyrus the Great had forged not only a vast realm, but also a new idea. A new idea of an empire, one that could unite diverse peoples under a common rule without erasing their identities. It was this vision that would make the Achaemenid Empire endure long after his. The last campaign of Cyrus the Great. By the end of his reign, Cyrus the Great ruled the largest empire the world had ever known, from the Aegean Sea to the mountains of Central Asia. Yet even the greatest conquerors are not immune to fate. In his final years, Cyrus turned his gaze east, toward the vast steppes beyond the Sir Daria River, where nomadic tribes roamed. Among them were the fierce Massagetæ, led by their warrior queen Thamyris. These tribes were skilled horsemen, hardened by the steppe, and fiercely protective of their freedom. According to Herodotus, Cyrus sought to bring them under his rule. At first, he tried diplomacy, even proposing marriage to Thamyris, but she refused. War soon followed. In the first clash, the Persians captured her son, who took his own life in captivity. Enraged, Thamyris vowed vengeance. The decisive battle came soon after. The Massagetæ lured the Persians into a trap, overwhelming them with cavalry and archers. Cyrus, the conqueror of Media, Lydia, and Babylon, fell in battle. His body, it is said, was found on the field. Legend claims that Queen Thamyris ordered his head plunged into a skin filled with blood, declaring, "Drink your fill, Cyrus, of the blood you thirsted for." Whether this story is fact or legend, one truth remains: Cyrus never returned from the steppes. His empire, however, endured. His body was carried back to Pasargadae, his capital, and laid to rest in a simple but majestic tomb, a monument that still stands today. Cyrus' death marked the end of a conqueror's journey, but not the end of his vision. The empire he built would outlast him, carried on by his heirs, and remembered for centuries as one of the greatest in history.
Thank you for watching this video. In next video we look at what happens to Achaemenid Empire after Cyrus the Great passes away. Don't forget to like and subscribe to make sure you don't miss next episodes.